Do you naturally struggle to take notes in lectures? Is it harder for you to organize material than to actually learn it? If that sounds like you, open any how to no longer take notes in higher education, where I'll show you how to use QuizGecko, an incredible AI study platform, to no longer take notes again during your educational career. Alrighty, here's a strategy. It's called ERM. E stands for exposure. You're just getting a glimpse of material. You're just going with material. You're not trying to memorize every detail. You're just getting exposed to it once. Okay, you're not trying to master it. You're just getting a brief exposure to the material. Just initial exposure. That's all it is. R, reinforce, where we reinforce that learning, where we try to gain a general understanding, a general infrastructure, a general foundation of the content that we got exposed to to really reinforce that material. And then M, master, where we zone in on the details. This helps you get ready for test day or your quizzes. All right. This ERM strategy will provide you a comprehensive, overview or comprehensive understanding of your material to help you in this scaffolded fashion cover the material in a sustainable manner. That way, you're studying for exams not in a state of chaos and panic, but hopefully you'll be done. You'll have to study in a sustainable way that allow you to have life outside of school. All righty. But also, critical thing about ERM. Okay, where we will utilize QuizGecko to implement it. We're using ERM to help learn the material in a systematic fashion, or that we're focusing on learning instead of organizing. Alrighty, now I'll show you how to use ERM in various ways, depending on how you learn best. Alrighty, we'll start with how I personally naturally a text-based learner. So we'll start with that. So I'll describe how to utilize QuizGecko. I'll be first. We're going outside, and then we'll go. Then the next video, we'll go in. We're first going outside. We're going outside in this video. We're both. You'll see where I'm going with this. Right now, we're talking on the outside, and then later we'll go on the inside, where I'll show you inside QuizGecko how to actually pull this off. All right. So if you're a text-based learner, here's what you do. You read the PowerPoint once, okay? That's it. Just read it once, and then in QuizGecko, you do. By the way, the prompts that I'll describe, I will be attached to this video already. So then you do general overview questions, where I have a special general overview prompt that I use for QuizGecko, as well as certain settings, in terms of customization of those questions. And then you do those questions to gain a general overview of material. All right, that's R, reinforce. And then is M, master, where we use what I call my regular prompt to gain a more comprehensive understanding of the material, to really zone in on all those details. All right. So, by the way, there's 3 ways to utilize ERM. What I just described to you, that's first off. Additionally, another way you can utilize this is based on after you read the PowerPoint once, your exposure. You could do an easy quiz, QuizGecko, and then a medium quiz, and then a hard quiz. Technically a hard quiz would be M, mastery. You get what I'm saying? For ERM, basically, you read the PowerPoint once, and so this alternative way to utilize ERM if you're a text-based learner is you read the PowerPoint once, and then for the reinforcement phase, the R phases, you do an easy quiz and a medium quiz. And then for M, mastery, you do a hard quiz. And additionally, I'm personally a pharmacy student, so in a lot of our exams, they have clinical cases. So I personally include in my prompt aspects of, where I ask QuizGecko to generate case-based questions that require more clinical reasoning. And however, depending on your respective discipline, you could obviously modify the prompt respectively differently. You'll see, you get what I mean. Yeah, all right. Obviously, modify the prompt appropriately to your discipline, to your program. All right, cool. And now here's the last way to utilize ERM if you're a text-based learner. So read PowerPoint once, E, it's the same. And for R, you can utilize what's called study notes, okay? QuizGecko has these study notes, okay, which are fantastic. It's exactly what it sounds like. Condensed study notes of that material. There's 3 ways to do it. They have 3 ways, which I'll obviously will show you, or 3 modes of study notes. They have concise bullet points, as one option they have. They also have a balanced mode, where it's a combination of bullet points and prose, more general context. And then they have their most comprehensive one, where they provide the most context. So depending on your preferences, obviously those are something you can explore. That could also be how you utilize R, reinforce if you're a text-based learner. And then M, mastery is the quiz I was referring to before. A comprehensive quiz to really zone on those details. I'll show you all respective prompts to make this all more clear. All right, so that is how to utilize. Those are the 3 ways to utilize ERM if you are a text-based learner. How to utilize QuizGecko to never take notes again in your program. Also, I will emphasize this though. I'm primarily referring for multiple choice exams. Okay, so at least for you'll never take notes again for multiple choice based courses in your respective program. Now, if you're an auditory learner, how to utilize QuizGecko? So again, me personally, I'm a text-based learner, so I read PowerPoint once. However, if you're an auditory learner, you show up to lecture and just listen. Just listen to the professor, go over the lecture. That's it. And just remember, you're just gaining general exposure. You're not trying to master the material. You're just trying to gain brief exposure. Just trying to get acquainted with material. It's a great way to put it. All right, you listen to lecture, do that once. All right, awesome. And then for R, okay? By the way, there's 2 ways to do this in QuizGecko. Either A, you could upload the PowerPoint to do this, or you could actually record your lecture during your respective course, for your respective lecture. Either one. All right, you did E, you listen to lecture in class. Awesome. All right, now R, reinforce. You upload your respective PowerPoint to QuizGecko, you listen to a podcast. There are 3 modes of podcasts. There's a very short one. There's a short one that's 5-10 minutes long, which is a general overview. You also could have a bigger deep dive, which is about 10 to 20 minutes long, or you could have a comprehensive one that's 30 minutes long. And what's also QuizGecko podcast is that not only do they explain the material in a really great way, they also, although I'm in this context referring to if you're an auditory learner, if you want to be able to have the benefit of reading the caption at the same time, you can do that as well. They do show those captions. During the podcast. All right, you do that as well. All right, so that is R. All right, and now M, mastery. Same thing as text-based learner. You do a comprehensive quiz, to really zoom in on those details, to really, gain that strong mastery, that strong comprehensive understanding of material to help get you ready for quiz day or test day, either one. All righty, now if you are a visual spatial learner, QuizGecko has mind maps, which are awesome. A great way to organize material. They're very detailed with the colors, the color schemes. Their mind maps are incredible. You'll see, although I'm struggling to articulate them, you'll see in the full breakdown how intricate and how organized they are. Anyway, so all right, so you could use there's 3 kinds of mind maps. 3 levels of difficulty of mind maps. Let me phrase that. Complexity of mind maps you can use. You can use a very general mind map. We're just getting remember E, exposure, general exposure. A relatively simple mind map, okay? Just to get a flavor of the content. And then you could do for R, you can do a more balanced mind map where it's a bit more comprehensive, and that will give you that'll be a great way to reinforce your learning. And then for M, mastery. Again, so for me personally, I highly suggest to do a practice quiz, based on my respective regular prompt, which is attached here in this video. However, I see nothing wrong with doing the most comprehensive form of the mind map as well that helps you learning. However, it's very important, before quiz day or exam day to do, utilizing my respective regular prompt, that comprehensive quiz to really zone in those details, get you ready for exam day or quiz day. Alrighty, so that's the general overview. So that's the gist of how to utilize my study strategy, ERM, within the platform QuizGecko. And although I personally use the text-based method, the general ERM strategy is how I no longer take notes in pharmacy school. All right, tune in for part 2 on the deep dive where I show you all those amazing QuizGecko features. Alrighty. All right, see you soon.